for a bad product. They wonder why, when they go into a building, that people just sit on their hands or they stand in line to get popcorn all night. I bet you I could go in the ring with somebody, and with my limited athletic ability and the fact that I'm 41 years old now, I can still go out there and anger a crowd and do what I need to do and still not have the worst match on the show.
Okay, so with you talking about sports entertainment, do you have mixed emotions when you think of John Schuyler going to that level?
My mixed emotions are I'll be proud when he gets there, and I'll be very happy for him when he gets there. You know, I broke John Schuyler into the business. There's no secret to that. Did I show him everything he knows? No. I would love to take credit for that, but that is not the case. John is a sponge for knowledge. But the one thing that I did teach John, and he'll tell you this, is that when you're at a show, when you're in the back, you watch every match. You watch the fans. You watch the matches. Find out what the crowd's reacting to. Watch the matches in front of you so you're not out there duplicating what they're doing. Know that if what they're doing isn't working, then you obviously need to do something else and go a different route. And John picked up on stuff like that. But John also caught up with people like Abel Adams, another guy that I have nothing but the utmost respect for. He's a great athlete, a great wrestler. In psychology, I don't think there was anybody better than Abel. Gunner is another one that John hooked up with and got a lot of knowledge from. I mean, John can even learn from people that are doing things wrong, because then he knows exactly what not to do. I was telling John this just a couple weeks ago. If he was 6 foot tall, he would already have a contract. There would be no doubt in my mind. That is the one thing that is holding John back right now, is the fact that he's not 6 feet tall.
To me, it just seems kind of cookie cutter. When you look at the WWE, everybody's at the same height. They all have pretty much the same build. Do you think that hurts the world of professional wrestling?
Well, it hurts the world of professional wrestling, but that's the world of sports entertainment. And what you have now is you have a performance center that I understand is a very beautiful place. It's state-of-the-art gym equipment and, you know, state-of-the-art production equipment. They're putting on great shows with NXT. The problem that I see with that is they are programming robots. They are not producing professional wrestlers. There is nothing like this in the world to where you get in the car and you drive 400 miles with somebody and you learn from them. I spent so much time on the road with the Barbarian for a couple of years, driving from town to town and managing at ringside, and I learned so much from the man just by doing that. And the guys today don't have that opportunity. And if they do have the opportunity, they don't take it. They get in a car, they drive to a town, they go out and do something, they get back in the car, and they drive home. So when I first started in the wrestling business, we'd put 5, 6 guys in a car and go somewhere, and if we had a chance to ride with somebody that had traveled a territory, by God, we got in the car with them, and we kept our mouths shut and our ears open. And that's the thing. That territory system being gone, you're not growing wrestlers organically. Now you're, like I said before, you're programming robots. But Vince is getting exactly what he wants. He knows what he's looking for. He knows what he wants. And you can't compare, in my opinion, professional wrestling to the sports entertainment. What you have on Monday night and Friday night is an entertainment program that is laced with a little bit of wrestling. What the independents should be doing is letting the wrestling be the entertainment. So you have a wrestling program that is laced with some entertainment. Do the old Memphis style. Have a little comedy on there. Have some seriousness. Have a little bit of something for everybody.
This is the party manimal, Zane Riley. I've been drinking since noon, eating since 12, and you know what? I'm going to the other 12. You're listening to the CIW Report. Hey, somebody hand me that beer.
Happy birthday, dear Smokey.
Happy birthday, Smokey Bear. The great outdoors and everyone in it thanks you for 70 years of wildfire prevention. For safety tips, visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state foresters, and the Ad Council.
We'll be right back with our featured interview on this week's Carolina Independent Wrestling Report right after this.
Previously on the Ninja Troll Digicast.
Two very different versions of the future collide this December in the 5-issue miniseries Star Trek Planet of the Apes.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Yes. Just had a nerdgasm.
It's all about love. The Ninja Troll Digicast.
With discussions on comic books, sci-fi, and all things in geek culture. This is the Ninja Troll Digicast. Join us each week right here on Spreaker.com. Now to more of our interview from this week's featured guest on the CIW Report. In your opinion, how do you think that the independent wrestling has changed over the years?
Oh, back when I first started, if we were cutting a promo, the promoter would look at us and say, you got X amount of time to cut the promo. They didn't give it to us word for word. If they told us we had 8 minutes for a match or whatever, that's what we had. And we were responsible for putting it together and going in the ring and telling a story. That was our job. Now you get these promoters that think that they're Vince McMahon. They're walking around with a clipboard, and they're sitting there trying to tell guys what to do and how to do it, and they've never done it themselves. Now, there are some promoters out here that wrestle, and there are some promoters, like I said, that they promote a show just because nobody else will book them, and they're the champion, and, you know, they wrestle in front of their parents and some family members, but they don't make a dime, and they won't make a dime because they won't go anywhere else to wrestle. They think once a month or once every 3 months that they wrestle in their hometown, they're a wrestler. You know, and if that's how they feel and that's what they want to do for life, who am I to judge? It kills the business, and, you know, they'll never get it. You're never going to be able to make them get it. They'll go to another show, and they'll think that somebody got lucky and drew a good house. You know, heaven forbid somebody actually went out and promoted.
We're talking with Bob Keller on this week's CIW Report. Bob, when I first met you, it was at the old Charlotte Coliseum for the Queen City Clash. You came in with a Barbarian. When did you first start working with guys that had made it to the bigger stages like the WCW or the WWF?
Actually, when I first got into the business, you know, like I was saying before, you know, the shows that I was wrestling on were always headlined by a couple names. One of the first shows I was on was the Rock and Roll Express and Superfly Jimmy Snuka. And like I said, I was right outside of Baltimore, so Dwayne Gilbert was on a lot of shows. Those guys from the Baltimore area. So, you know, we would get those names. I didn't necessarily first name until 1998 when I wrestled the Honky Tonk Man in Moorfield, West Virginia. And actually, I'm telling you wrong. I am so sorry. I'm telling you wrong. The first name that I ever wrestled was the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant. And then I'd actually been in a tag team match with Jimmy Valiant as well. It was a 6-man tag. That was in Batesburg, South Carolina. And then I wrestled Jimmy Valiant in the Mid-South Coliseum for a promoter named Matt Holder. And then, like I said, I'd wrestled with the Honky Tonk Man in Moorfield, West Virginia.
Okay, when you started working with these guys and you had seen them on TV, and these had been people that you got to know through cable TV and that sort of thing, did you ever have like a mark-out moment that you were like, holy crap, I'm in the ring with Jimmy Valiant?
When you first meet Jimmy Valiant, you got to make sure you're not near his table. Otherwise, he will empty your wallet. Boogie is a super nice guy, incredible person, and you can learn so much by just sitting down and talking to him and the stories he has to tell. And, of course, when I started managing the Barbarian and traveling with the Barbarian, I heard the other side of some of those stories because, you know, Jimmy Valiant and the Barbarian had wrestled against each other for so long. And then when I met Paul Jones in Las Vegas, you get the third side to that story. So it's even better. I'll back up here a little bit. We're all fans of this business. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in it. Nobody just wants to wake up one morning and go, well, I think I'll just go beat the piss out of myself. We're all fans of the wrestling business. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. And, of course, when I was trained, we were told when somebody walks in that locker room, you don't walk up with a pad and a pencil and go, oh, my God, can I get your autograph? Act like you belong there. And once you speak to that person, you don't bug them. But if you politely ask for it, 9 times out of 10, they'll hook you up with a picture or something like that. When Championship Pro Wrestling was running in a place called the Cadillac Club in Martinsburg, West Virginia. They had King Kong Bundy on one of the events. This was about 16 years ago. My daughter might have been 3 years old. The one thing I wanted to do was see if King Kong Bundy would take a picture with my daughter. And he was more than happy to oblige. King Kong Bundy was a super nice guy in the locker room, somebody that you could actually sit down and talk to, and he would give you some knowledge. Demolition Axe is another one. You know, if you sit there and you listen to these guys, they'll help you out. Some of the kids today, you try to help them out, and they got 500 excuses of why they did what they did that was stupid, and you're never going to be able to get through to them. You know, they think everything that they do is right. They got to get in all their spots. They got to go 500 miles an hour. Then if you say something to them like, hey, slow down, or, you know, do this a little different next time, or pay attention to the fans, or look at the fans when you're selling. You don't look at the canvas. The canvas isn't buying anything. You know, they look at you like you got a third eye in your head. You know, I've been in this business for 20 years, and again, it's not because of my athletic ability. So, you know, I do think I know a little bit of what I'm talking about, and I try to pass on things that I've learned along the way.
Out of all of your time in pro wrestling, behind the scenes, managing, getting in the ring, and working, what would you say would be your most definitive Bob Keller match?
Oh, man. You know, 4 years ago when my father passed away, I had just really lost the desire to really do about anything. I mean, I was completely lost. My father passed away September 28th of 2010, and by November of 2010, I was just ready to hang it up. And a promoter in West Virginia asked me to do a few shows for him the following year, and a promoter in Charleston, South Carolina asked me to do a few shows for him, and I agreed to do them as long as I could pick my opponent. You know, I seen that John Schuyler's star was on the rise. If there was an opportunity to work with somebody and I knew that would be able to draw a good match out of me, it was John, or be able to draw the best of what I had. Again, like I said, my heart was not 100% in it, but when I got in the ring with John, I knew he was going to push me to the limit. And he did. Every time we got in the ring, the kid pushed me to the limit. We had a couple bull rope matches. One of them in particular, you know, John busted me open. I wound up having to get 4 staples, and I know he felt bad about it. I didn't feel bad about it at all. It was an accident. I know he didn't crack my skull on purpose. I know he was trying to draw blood. I just didn't know he was trying to draw brains, too. And Shane Shadows out of West Virginia, he's another one. I can get in the ring with those guys, and I could come from the other side of the county and meet them in the middle of the ring and not be worried about a damn thing. I wouldn't have to talk anything over with them. I wouldn't have to worry about anything. I just know that we tie up and we would go to it. So the matches that I've had with Shane and matches that I've had with John, I would guess that those are really my defining moments, or the moments that I really cherish the most. Even though I've done a lot of stuff with the Barbarian and Jimmy Valiant and stuff like that, those were all exciting moments, don't get me wrong. But the moments that I feel when I walked out of the ring, those guys both drew everything out of me to what I had.
I want to know if you have figured out what the it factor is when somebody comes to you for training.
Well, here's the problem. If I could figure out what the it factor is, I would be a multimillionaire, because Vince McMahon doesn't even know what the it factor is. Nobody knows what it is. They just know when somebody has it. And I think it just happens to be a combination of things, to be completely honest with you. If you get somebody that's a good wrestler but they can't talk, well, that's a strike against them. Well, if you get somebody that's a great talker but they can't work a lick, or they can't even take a decent bump, well, they're in trouble. But if you get somebody that looks good, sounds good, and can even be passable in the ring, then now you have it. You know, and sometimes it's the people that define it. Look at guys that you never thought would get over on TV, and the next thing you know, there's Damien Mizdow.
So did you know that Schuyler had it when you saw him?
When I first met John, I knew he had determination. I knew that this was what John wanted to do. John had the heart to do it. John would get in the ring, he would run, he would bump, he would not complain. He wouldn't make excuses. John is a perfectionist. If John makes a mistake, John figures out why the mistake was made and figures out how to fix it. And that was one thing that I've seen in John, was that heart and that determination. And I've had other guys that have come